I know him. Bob? I'd just like to get some ground rules in here first, okay? I do not want this session to devolve in anything negative. This is a positive session. We are talking about the future of AJPA. It's important. We're at a crossroads, and I really would like everybody's input. We're going to hear from Joe Ellen, who's going to explain how some of us who signed up to be on the strategic committee have met through the year, have done research, different kinds of research. We put together a slide presentation to sort of explain that research and some avenues that we might want to consider going forward. There are probably some other ideas that you all have out there. We want to hear from you. We want to be courteous about it. We want to give everyone a chance to speak. So let's be mindful of when we do speak, how much time we take, and also listen to what everyone has to say. We're not going to make a decision at the end of this session. We are just going to have some ideas, some paths to follow forward. And hopefully we can land on one or two where we really want to put our energy into those. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Jo Ellen and thank her for being here.
Hey, folks. Hey, so I'm going to stand in front of the projector for a little bit. I've been talking about strategy for AJPA for quite a while now. And I want to first tell you a little bit about myself. So my name is Jo Ellen, and I started out in Jewish media like 20 years ago or so. And then I quit because it was kind of hard. It was really painful for me, and I wanted to have like a Jewish practice that was religious and not political and not anything else. But and what I did is I became the head of an association, which is now gone. We had 100 members. It was a small association. And after that, I consulted with startups, with the Google News Initiative and other places. I consulted with over 100 publishers, helping them with their business and publishing, database, strategy, all that sort of stuff. Non-Jewish publishers. And then I realized, you know what, like, it was time for me to get back into publishing again, and it was time for me to do something to support the community. And the job at the Jewish News of Northern California was open, so I took it. I'm the CEO there. And it's over 100 years old. It's one of our oldest news organizations. And so I've had to kind of reinvigorate it. And I've been trying to take it through a very slow and gentle process. I believe in print. I believe in serving the community really deeply. I believe that, but I also believe that we have to change and grow to meet the needs of the next generation. So when I look around this room, I mean, I'm really excited to see a lot of people that I know, and I know that you're really excited to be here. If we can have the next slide. There's a lot that's working here at AJPA. I think that the Rock Hours have been very successful. Bob has been running them for years now, and they're a source not only of money for the organization, which is really needed, but also like what we call Jewish joy. Have you heard the kids talk about Jewish joy? Like kids talk about Jewish joy. And the Rock Hours really do that. They remind us of the incredible work that we're doing. KCA has been doing a really great job providing our bookkeeping and organizing this conference. I mean, this is really well organized. I used to organize conferences at AJPA, and KCA has done a terrific job. And I think the most important thing is the community that's here. I mean, I see how excited everyone is to come here and see each other and be like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in years, Alan, how are you doing? Like, you know, like, it's great, you know, like, it's really great to be able to see that community. And I think that that's the thing that pulls this organization together. But I also want you to look around the room. And I want you to think about who's not here. The forward's not here. LA isn't here. Chicago isn't here. We don't have Moments not here. We have Ami from JTA, but we don't have like a whole crew. We don't have a lot of people here. I looked at the conference address, like who's here from wherever. We have about 19 publishers here. Maybe there's 20, maybe I missed one, something like that. If we could go to the next slide. It's really, really hard to run an organization that only has 4 Jewish publishers, that only has 20 publishers coming to the conference. It's just a sad thing. I mean, it's not what I would like it to be, but it's just true, it's hard. And there's only about 40 or so Jewish publishers in the US. That might not count some of our Orthodox friends who are publishing. Maybe there's 60. It's a really small group. So as publishers, you never get 100% of any community, right? So it's like when your addressable audience is small, you're going to be small. And that's starting to show up in our financials. So I'm staying with Jim, and he's told me that every year we're running a deficit of around $20,000 on a very small budget. And within 3 or 4 years, we're going to run out of the reserve. And what next? So we have a financial challenge, and also I think an audience challenge, like an addressable audience challenge, that has to be figured out. We have to find a way to figure that out. Otherwise, what's going to happen is folks are going to retire, and there's not going to be anything left. So it's not like something that we want to do, because we're all happy being here. But it's something that if we're thinking about the future, and that's what I'm doing, like at J, I'm thinking, what's our future going to look like? Do we really need all the production people on our print? Do we really need like as many editors as we have? Like, it's hard decisions. I had to let go of someone who was there for 25 years because we just had to restructure. And it's not something you want to do. We gave him an incredible severance package. Like, we want to do right by people, but we also need to be looking to the future so that we can preserve the thing that matters most, which is the work that we do. I also know from Ellen how hard it's been to run AJPA as a volunteer, especially during a time where we need strategic thinking. I mean, each of us is really busy. I'm guessing that you're as busy as I am. I mean, I'm working 6 days a week. Like, I'm just, there's like phone calls, there's this, there's that. Like, it's a hard life, and we do it because we care about it. But none of us has time for like a whole second job of, running an organization. And it's just really hard to do. That's a big challenge we have. And so when we're trying to do strategic thinking and like reorient the organization for like a future, it's really hard to do that when we're all volunteers. Unless all of us pitch in together and like agree on a direction, it's not going to happen. And then, I hate to say this, but there's a reason that some of the bigger players aren't here. And that's that there's a perceived lack of value. Now, I'm not saying that there's a real lack of value. I think this is really valuable. I think, to me, just walking into a room with people you haven't seen in a year and connecting and talking is super valuable. But the thing is, like someone like me, I look at other associations. And I look at what they offer, and I say, what I'm getting out of AJPA is a fantastic 3-hour conversation. It's like, I really love meeting other Jewish publishers and saying, hey, like, how do you get the kosher butcher to advertise with you? And like, are your people tired of hearing all about anti-Semitism? And like, do you do point counterpoint in your opinion pages? And it's about a 3-hour conversation, and I'm done. Like, I'm done, like, I'm ready to move on. And it's hard for me to come to California for a meeting when that's to spend like $1,000 between the plane and the hotel and everything, when that's what I'm getting. And I think that's why you're not seeing some other folks here. I want to give you a case study. I'm going to do a couple of case studies so that we can sort of see how AJP is stacking up and what the other options are out there. Let's go to the next slide. So I'm a member of Lion Publishers. This is just one of many associations out there. Lion started out as local, independent, online news publishers. It was for digital startups. And so when it began, it was completely irrelevant to us because we're not digital only. We are, almost all of us are in print, maybe not Kabad, but everybody else is in print. And this was like for little tiny startups who were just brand new, like only a year or two old, and we were like, whatever. But now they've grown to 550 members. We joined them because we have a website, right? So we're digital, we're online. They have an annual conference, which is like a 3-day conference. They grant $3.9 million to their members for sustainability audits. The first year I joined Lion, we got a $25,000 grant and a coach to help us figure out whether we were being sustainable. And they went through all of my P&Ls and they went through all of our metrics, our Google Analytics. They gave us really actionable suggestions on what we could do, and they gave us $25K to start doing it. And I'm in line for a second grant from them this year to do more of building up our sustainability. And also I can get more free coaching. I mean, that's a huge value to me. Just for paying like $400 or whatever a year, I'm getting like actually cash back, right? Like the ROI is there. And then they also do advocacy now. So I don't know about you, but I spent hours in the last couple of months advocating on behalf of Jay. We had our digital archives were at UC Riverside and they were going under, and we had to advocate for state funding for them. We've been advocating for state funding for money for news organizations. And like, it's tiring. I can't be lobbying all the time. And these people just hired a full-time lobbyist to help us like get more money into news. And then they have a national profile. So like when I go, and this is really important, I also just joined another association for the same reason. When I go to funders, including Jewish funders, and I say, we need money, and by the way, we're members of Lion, and we're members of INN, and like that, they say, oh, you're not just like a little Jewish paper, you're like playing the big leagues, right? And it helps me get more money, and I need that money. So like these kinds of associations are really powerful. And when I go to that conference, and I encourage you to go look at the schedule for the Lion conference, for the INN conference, the ONA conference, I'm getting really great. Yeah, it's in St. Louis. I'm excited to go to St. Louis. Yeah, and when I go to those conferences, they're going to have sessions on AI, how to use AI, and also how to deal with AI search, which I'm really concerned about. I'm really concerned about AI search killing like our discoverability. They're going to be having sessions on financials, how to like manage your finances and that sort of thing. They're going to have editorial sessions on how to like do data journalism, how to do like how to become an investigative reporter, that sort of thing. They're going to have like all these sessions of like very actionable information, advertising. They're going to be talking about digital ads, how to use Google Ad Manager to get digital ads, that sort of thing. These things are super actionable for me and like a super value. And so I'm like, I'm going to spend money to go to that conference because I'm going to get a lot out of it. And that's what we're up against. So there's going to be publishers like me and new publishers coming into the Jewish publishing space who are going to start saying, hey, maybe I should be going to another conference. I'm going to go to the AAN conference, which used to be for all weeklies, which was, used to be like out there doing their Village Voice thing. But they're print publishers and they bring in so much money in advertising. And I'm going to go to their conference because they have calendars, they have events, they have, they have print ads, they have digital ads. I want to learn more from them about how they're bringing in revenue. And there's going to be like 300 publishers there who all are focused on print advertising. I mean, I'm looking forward to talking to them about how I can make more money. So this is what we're competing against, okay? I wanna kind of set the stage for you. Nobody can compete with us on being Jewish, but they can compete with us on the actual business that we're in. And I'm gonna hold questions until I finish, because otherwise I don't wanna get distracted, I wanna go through it. But please write down your questions or whatever, because absolutely, I wanna talk about questions. So let's go to the next slide. I feel like what we do better than anyone else is being Jewish. Like, this is our special sauce, right? This is why we exist, right? Like, and this is an incredible moment. And look, bad things, you can turn like, lemons into lemonade, okay, whatever. But this is an incredible moment. I mean, everybody is thinking about the Jewish world right now. You know, the whole bombing of Iran, everybody is thinking like, what is the role of Jews? What is the role of Israel? We've seen a rise in anti-Semitism. Some of our peers are like, the funders are very concerned about it. They know that Jewish news is on the front lines attacking anti-Semitism. Like, we are there. It's like the ADL and us, right? I mean, like, we're right there. If we weren't running those stories about anti-Semitic incidents, nobody would know about them. It would be like the tree falling in forest, right? So this is an incredible moment. And, you know, I'll tell you, if you ever run other, like if you, as an organization leader, you know that certain moments only come around once or twice in a lifetime. Bad or good. In this case, it's bad, but it doesn't matter. It's a moment when people are willing to invest in us and to say, okay, we know there's a massive problem. Can you be the solution? And so I feel like this is a time when we can really, really get involved. Like, this is a great moment to transform. This is a fantastic moment because people are going to be with us. Funders are going to be with us. People are going to invest. But we have to have a good message for them. We have to say, we can't just say, invest in us because we're doing what we've always done. We have to say, we have to give them a vision. You know, I don't know, how many of you have actually talked to funders, like of any kind? Like, how many of you have not talked to funders? Okay, you'll know if you ever talk to funders, they want the vision, they want the big picture. They're like, give me something shiny and sparkly, right? And this is the moment where we can give them something shiny and sparkly about AJPA. They'll invest in us. We can move this organization forward. It's an incredible time. Let me give you another case study. Or let's first talk about the time. You're not moving around.
You can go back.
No, this is good. Okay. So one of the things that we know about this time is that we've been reporting on our Jewish communities and the anti-Semitism that they're facing. I wanted to give you an idea that there's another cohort that we should be thinking about, which is Jewish journalists. Not people in Jewish journalism, but journalists who are Jewish. And what we've discovered is that a lot of our colleagues who are in secular press are feeling very underwater. They're feeling very isolated and alienated. They're feeling very alone. They're feeling very like they have to hide their Jewish identity, or else they're going to be getting a lot of hate from their, you know, so-called progressive colleagues or whatever. They're saying things like, there's a tide of hate directed against Jewish journalists. They're attacked by alt-right trolls. They are feeling anti-Semitism in their work. Some of their colleagues are likely anti-Zionist and potentially anti-Semitic, right, or both. We have peers in the Jewish world that actually could really use our help. And so I want to introduce an idea, and it's just one idea, but there's one way that we could grow that could be powerful. And let me show you another case study. The National Association of Black Journalists is focused on the same kind of issue that Jewish journalists are facing now. Black journalists face a lot of prejudice in the workplace. They face a lot of alienation. A lot of times news organizations hiring a Black journalist to be a token Black journalist and they feel very isolated. They feel that people don't understand their cultural practices, their background, their history. And because of that, a whole organization sprang up to support Black journalists. That organization is the NABJ. I've been to several other conferences. When I was running my own association, I went to all these other association conferences. And they have 4,000 journalists who are members. They have an annual conference and career fair. They give $100,000 in college scholarships, and they have a national profile. They had Kamala Harris, while she was running for president, speak. So imagine if we had Josh Shapiro speak at AJPA. That's, yeah. Yeah. So that's, you know what I mean? That's what we're talking about, right? Have him on stage, right? So, and what they do that I really like, a lot of the stuff they do is completely irrelevant for us. What they do that I like was they have a career pipeline. I don't know about you, but I have a heck of a time hiring journalists because a lot of journalists want to be in secular spaces, they don't want to be in Jewish spaces, and I have a hard time hiring. I end up getting very junior people who then I have to train. The NABJ has this career fair where, I think this thing just died. Yeah, I don't need it. The NABJ just had this career fair where they have this incredible career fair where what they do is they bring in baby journalists from J schools and stuff like that. And then the other thing they do is they have senior career people there. Because one of the problems I have is I can bring in new young reporters, but when I had to hire an editor-in-chief, it was really hard to get seasoned reporters, seasoned editors to come back into the Jewish space. But here they have that whole pipeline set up. And I think that's really exciting. So that was one of the things when I looked at NABJ, I thought, wow, what if we had that kind of pipeline? What if we had a Jake Tapper come and be presenting and talking to young Jewish career journalists? We have Esther here who's with the Boiling Point, that's high school journalism. What if we had the high school journalists come in, the college journalists come in, journalists who are associated with Hillel and early stage journalists, and then they get to meet one of their idols. They get to meet a Jake Tapper. They get to meet a Barry Weiss. They get to meet someone like that. And what if we could do that, right? I'm getting a lot of feedback.
That's the microphone's on again.
Wherever it is. I'll see if I can find it.
Anyway, so that's one. So that's one idea. What I'd like us to think about is a Jewish Press Association that could do these kinds of things, that could do things like Lion, that could do things like NABJ, that could drive innovation and sustainability. So get us grants, get us tools and resources for making our organization more sustainable. That could elevate our profile, right? That could elevate our profile among Jewish journalists. That could, and nationally, that could make sure that people felt oh, we are powerful. That could build a talent pipeline the way NABJ does. That could help bring new Jewish journalists into the space. That could create a broader community of Jewish publishers and journalists together, so that we could connect with people who are maybe Jewish but in journalism, and along with Jewish publishers, right? Okay? And who could support journalists both inside and outside of Jewish media. What if we could have an organization that could do all of these things? What if we could think broadly and say we can do everything we're doing now and, not but and. What if we could be additive? What if we could sort of say, we could be so much more than who we are? Instead of scrabbling around for an extra 10,000, 20,000 here or there, what if we could grow and be an organization that was 500 people strong? 600 people, that had like big names of like all these famous, well-known Jews who are journalists and our publishers together talking about anti-Semitism, talking about Israel, talking about the challenges that we face as cultural, ethnic, religious Jews. Talking about needing to, making accommodations for people who are Orthodox, talking at the New York Times or whatever. Like, how do we do that? We had a great story in Jay about, a couple of baseball players whose team made accommodations for them because they were Orthodox. But journalism doesn't do that. Like, our Orthodox colleagues can't really work in mainstream journalism right now because accommodations aren't being made. There's a lot of things that we could be doing. There's a lot of ways that we could expand if we thought bigger instead of small, if we went big. And that's what I want you to think about. And I think that it wouldn't be as challenging to do as we think. If we go to the next slide, there's a lot of micro strategies in here. Actually, let's skip this because we can go back and talk about these next slides. Let's go to this one, yeah. I don't think it would be, we know how to make these kind of big strategic changes happen. We redefine, we agree on what that big vision is. Whatever it is, we agree on the big vision. We create a blueprint. Then we go to the funders with the big vision and we say, hey, we need the money. We need the money to make this big vision happen. And then we hire an executive director who would work with KCA, who can actually implement it for us because we're too small to do it ourselves. I don't think, like I said, this is the moment. This is the moment because of the increased anti-Semitism, because of what's happening with Israel. This is the moment where it's not crazy to think that we could go out to funders, to the Maimonides, to the Jim Josephs, to the Covenants, to these big national funders and say, hey, there can be a new vision for what an AJPA can be, and we can make it happen. So that's what I wanted to leave you with. If you go to the last slide, I'm asking you to step up and think about that kind of future, to think about what a larger, more exciting, bigger, more challenging AJPA could look like. That's what my presentation is. And I want to have a discussion now. And I'm happy I can go back into the strategies. Everybody else in the strategic committee can talk. I know Craig had a question. I'd like to have a conversation.
Back when you were talking about the other 40 publishers or so that we don't have here, I think we also have to factor in that a lot of those publications they're struggling or have closed. I just listed off a bunch of different cities that I used to see at these conferences. Houston with Vicki, Dallas-Fort Worth, Amy was our former president, LA, who hosted our conference back in 2016 or something like that, and I hardly saw any of their people there when it was in their own city. They were not such great volunteers. The Jewish press is in here, and I agree, but we've talked to them, Karen's talked to them and tried to get them to be members, and we just can't get them to be members. I doubt that the reason why they don't join us is because our programming isn't any good. I'm sorry, I just don't think that's the reason. It's got to be something different than that. The Jewish press doesn't come. Boston, I'm not even, the Advocate shut down. I'm not sure about the North Boston paper, but they can't be doing that great. I don't even know if they could afford to come to a conference like this. I keep going. Las Vegas never comes. Orlando, I remember back in the day when the Orlando paper used to come. Now he doesn't come anymore. I don't even know if he still owns it. South Florida, where are they? My dad sees that paper down in South Florida. It's thin as can be. It's barely 16 pages.
Chicago.
The Connecticut Jewish Ledger, I don't think they're even publishing anymore. So I'm rattling off all these different publications that just, they're not around anymore. So I don't know what the other 40 Jewish publishers are that you're looking to get here. I love the ideas though that you're saying about better programming. I think that's absolutely key. But there's so many of these publications that struggled over the years so much that they're not even around anymore, or they can't afford to come, no matter what programming we have. So I'm not trying to be a downer, I'm just bringing the reality to that.
That's true, and that's one of the reasons that one of my suggestions is that we open up to journalists who are Jewish, because then we would get like another 500, 600 people.
To that point about the declining number of publications, it's a reality. Although it's possible to bring in more of those that still do exist, but I think your key point about expanding the vision of the organization to include Jewish journalism, Jewish journalists, organizations that aren't publishing actual newspapers. That's the way forward. You hit on the key point.
Some of us in the room also go to the Religion News Association conference. I don't know if that's a model you looked at. They've kind of seesawed a bit, but they have a kind of nonprofit and access grants and the like. Some of the people, it was interesting, I think your slide had Emma when she was still at Atlantic and not the New Yorker, but she and a lot of other Jewish journalists come there. But it would be interesting to find out what those people might not be finding at RNA, which is a lot bigger, that would make them want to come here. And I'm not sure how much there is. All the senses of community and the like might already be something they're getting. So.
Hi, I'm Alex Friedman from Hadassah. I have a lot of thoughts running in my head, but for now, I just wanted to respond to what Ed just said, and forgive me if you all know this, but I am in PR, so I'm always trying to find out where the hundreds, if not thousands, of local Jewish journalists and Jewish journalism outlets have gone, and as a lot of you know, a lot of them are now owned by, and some have always been owned by or taken over by Federation. I don't know if that's an issue. And some of the outlets, Ed, that you mentioned, not only taken over by Federation, but Federation outsources them to local marketing organizations. So the Connecticut Ledger, I think, as of last time I looked a year ago, it was being produced by a small marketing outlet that I don't think is Jewish in nature, but was hired by the local federation. So again, forgive me if you know that, but I wondered if Federation was an issue, whether they were not willing to pay to be part of this and send people to the convention, to the meeting.
Yeah, I don't know, we're independent, but I'm guessing that is an issue in some places.
Hi, Barbara Dowd from Jewish Observer in Nashville, and I am a Federation paper, and they're by and large are pretty supportive of my participation in this conference, and most of you know my colleague Carrie Mills, who's been on your board. So we've been involved for a really long time, and it's actually been something that helps us fundraise because the community really loves the newspaper. It's got a long history, and it's thanks to Federation support that we continue to exist. So that's been great for us. I can't speak to everything, but one issue I did want to mention was, and thank you so much for this. It's really inspiring to see all that and very exciting. I kind of also feel an absence this year of some freelance people who normally come. So I'm hoping that in some of this, there'll be opportunities to engage freelancers as well, because it is an expense to come to these things and to be part of AJPA. And I think it's really behooves us to encourage and support and foster freelance reporters who we all rely on for content and support and marketing and all those kinds of things out in the world. But and I think what you're offering hopefully would be appealing to them as well. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I think if we were having that kind of career pipeline, it would actually help our freelancers find work.
Joellen, when you spoke about Lion and the other organization last year, I believe that there was a discussion about whether AJPA could become a subsidiary of one of these larger groups or of the Religion News Association, if that's something that has been looked into, or if we could look into it, because if our membership dues could pay for us to become a subsidiary, we would have that support, and we could still have, our rock hour dinner in conjunction with it. It doesn't sound like Lions would work in September because that's too close to the holidays for everyone. But perhaps the Religious News Association would make sense.
As long as it's okay.
Yeah, well, with Monaco, a few of us have also paid with Religions Association, and going back a decade ago when I was AJPA president, I tapped into their expertise. The one thing they do really well, they've got very deep pockets for scholarships for people who can't afford. And we started scholarships, I believe we still have a modest fund for scholarships. But I think that one of our goals should be to really, really beef up that money for scholarships to bring people out here. The other thing with RNA, they've had a bit of turnover in the last few years in their staffing, their executive director, and even going back a few years ago, we always talk about, let's see how we can partner, what can we do? And then that staff person is gone. They just, I think, hired a new executive in the last year or so. I'm sure those of us who are involved with RNA, I think Monty's involved with that too, he's always there. We can start that conversation if this group would like us to.
There's been a bit that has not turned over at RNA. There's been a little bit that did not turn over at RNA.
Hold on, let's take one.
I've been going to RNA for the better part of a decade and a half. Most of the journalists that were mentioned who've gone to RNA haven't been there in a few years. I don't think Emma's been there in like 5 years.
But she's not on the religion feed anymore.
That's true as well. The grass is always greener on the other side. Many of the problems that we're talking about here, or the challenges, are faced by RNA as well. Declining membership, declining participation in conferences. I do think that we have a lot of assets that we could utilize. One of them is the rock hours, right? We're in a place like Pittsburgh. I'm sure we could invite people from local organizations who could sponsor a table at the dinner. They could be recognized. The Rock Hour Awards could also be expanded in various ways. I do think, though, it's important before we jump into something, we recognize who we are and what's the value that we bring, and who could utilize that before we change the nature of what AJPA actually is.
Should I like this about that?
Well, look, we do events for Jewish journalists in New York, right? And we've been getting a lot of most of the journalists that come are from mainstream media. And we could change AJPA for those journalists, but we need to recognize what we're doing and what we're leaving behind when we do that. I definitely think that AJPA is very newspaper focused as opposed to new media. And another thing is, you mentioned advocating for Orthodox journalists in the New York Times. They don't exist, right? But what does exist is a very healthy landscape of journalism or media outlets and companies in the Orthodox community. Many of them are, the papers are booming, right? Someone mentioned Hamadiyah yesterday, but there's also just like online things, status updates and all kinds of and everything at AJPA is very newspaper focused, from the rock hours to the way we look at membership. If we were able to be more flexible with that and explore what's out there, I think there's a lot of room for growth.
John? I am one of the people who was trying to help think through this, and I just want to come back to this slide and emphasize one thing. We all know, because we all feel in our publications, the long, slow slide of local journalism due to the internet and changes in society. And we're all aware of that. But I think that this really is a moment in time where we can really seize it at a national level. I really think that independent of Jewish journalism, we're gonna have a great session later today on Press Forward, but the advent of Press Forward and some other things at a national level is, I think that our society is waking up to the danger to democracy in our society by not having local journalism. And I think the time is right in the general media world for us to stake out a bigger, more important place. And Jewishly, I think that with October 7th and all that's brought, I think the Jewish world is kind of waking up and thinking about this, and they're thinking about how can we invest and protect in our future. And I think we could be the voice to say, we are a key plank of that. I think this is the right time to go to people and say, invest in the future of Jewish life by investing in Jewish journalism. So I actually think that even though we've been facing this decline for a number of years, I think this is the moment when we can, where the conditions, the external conditions are right for us to really seize a much bigger, more exciting opportunity for all of us.
I think right now, one of our biggest problems is time. We all work how many hours a day? We barely have time to have dinner with our families, let alone make calls for membership or pitch AJPA to other people. I mean, I tend to do it in daily conversations, but I called Chicago, and got eviscerated for 8 minutes about how AJPA, that they could find what we have elsewhere better and more productive, and I can put you in touch with the person that I spoke with. And I listened and didn't have anything to say in return. But I think we're a niche organization, so we need to push the fact that we offer something nobody else does. I'm in the National Federation of Press Women, and it's women, so every 2 weeks I get a newsletter, updates, new laws, new changes in journalism from places like Peoria and Normal, Illinois, and we have to offer something, we need to buy into something, not just who we are and our MO, but even the irony is we have to feed them back news. We need to give our own members updates of what is going on in terms of anti-Semitism laws, what's happening in Congress, anything that might affect Israel. So it's almost, we need almost a publication for ourselves. And that might entail having somebody that we pay to do this, because who among us has an extra 2 hours or even 15 minutes in our day to do
Thank you. Yeah, I think that, I mean, what I'm hearing is what you're saying is we need a vision and we need to know what we do well and what we can do more of.
Have there been any discussions about who might be the right person to be that executive director?
Well, I don't think.
No, there haven't, I mean, we haven't even landed on that being.
We haven't landed on that being the right move. I think some of us think that, and then, of course, how do we fund it?
And pay for it. Is that, we have to pay for it.
I said, how do we fund that?
Oh, I just-
Yeah.
how do we
How do
find
we-
it?
No, finding would probably be the easy part of that equation, but funding would be difficult. But not impossible, if that's what we just, if that's one way we decide to move forward, and it might be the best way. But that's part of what we're doing here now, is to hear from everybody and hear what you have to think about it.
Thanks so much, your presentation was awesome. This is my first time at the conference, and it's great just getting to network and see people in person. And I work in PR, I pitch stories to Jewish outlets, secular outlets, et cetera. And how many times people say, you know, it's so great that somebody actually called me on the phone to pitch a story. Like, you can't really replace the in-person networking and face-to-face communication that has been largely replaced by digital. Unless somebody's a news junkie, most people in this generation get their news from social media.
and push it out through their social media channels to drive them to actually read the thing that comes in the mail. So it's important to think about all these things, and I think that whatever future we have to kind of incorporate some of these things, some of this multi-layered thinking.
I love the fresh thinking. This guy's been here less than 24 hours, and he's become the first person in the history of AJPA to say gelatinous. Love that word.
I don't think I have a lot of thoughts, but hopefully I can pull them into something coherent. But I think what AJPA brings to the table is so much knowledge and experience, and when you're talking about influencers, and yeah, that's where we're getting our news, unfortunately. They have no ethical standards, they have no research skills, they have barely any media literacy, and I think that's actually something that AJPA can offer to the younger generation is some measure of credibility and value in this world where the most creative person might become a trusted authority, and how disturbing is that? And another thing, just, when you're talking about different kinds of voices, maybe fewer readers than there used to be, but there's also more writers. People are opening up their own substacks, journalists especially are building their own personal brands. I think there's a lot to tap into there with offering access to community. Every Jewish space I enter, everybody says they feel alone. They feel isolated, they feel lonely, they feel scared. So offering something to that is so valuable.
Thank you so much. I've heard so many exciting things here about the power of Jewish community, about the possibility of bringing in young folks who are writers and thinkers, but who may or may not read the newspaper, but who are writing and thinking Jewishly, about connecting with other associations and adding that Jewish element to it.
So, hi, I'm Esther Kostanowitz, and I'm here from some of those undermentioned communities. Student journalists of tomorrow. I'm an advisor at Charlotte High School in Los Angeles for the student newspaper, the One and then the one on Rock Hour, so you'll see that name come up tonight. And I also am from LA, so if there is someone from LA here, I have been a freelance journalist for many years, so kick me into that representation pool as well. And I've been through a career shift over the last couple of years, but I still always have defined myself as a Jewish writer. And if I did not have the funding from my job at Shalhevet to attend, I would be in that computer right there watching you guys. Because I feel that this is an organization that has great potential to be supportive, but has sadly, in my case at least, has never really lived up to those expectations on a regular basis. If a conference was in my community, as it was in LA, and whenever that was 2016ish, I definitely go. But if it's in another city, I can't afford to be there, so I'm in the computer. And I've always appreciated the digital space as an access space for people who can't be there in person for whatever limitations that they might have, financial, physical, otherwise. But I just keep thinking about all of those support structures that are around in the other spaces that Joellen mentioned, like the other kinds of associations. I was at the Columbia Scholastic Press Association Conference in New York in March. And, you can have a whole conversation later about what you like about Columbia University or how they might be problematic. But the point is that they had this conference for 100 years. And so that's a lot of years to work out the kinks of what a conference should be. But it was also a very robust series of workshops and conversations about everything that's happening in journalism today. And when I was looking at the program for today, I was spoiled by the CSPA and their ability to have 100 years to think this through, whereas we didn't here. But I'm also thinking about the proposition, first of all, I want to say I am ready. I'm ready to step up and do something, but it has to be the right thing for me. Like, I'm not gonna help you with your financials, I'm very sorry. Or actually, you're welcome that I'm not helping you with your financials. But I wanted to say that there are ways I think that we can kind of hack some of the issues. When we're talking about creating a more thriving network where people can learn from each other and have their skills advanced and network and all of those things. I think those are all great and I would love to see that for us. But we also have to activate the network. So the question isn't just, oh, can we just declare we're having classes? Sure, we can do that. We can do that on Zoom. We did it during the pandemic, everybody had classes, right? So the question is, how do you take it beyond that step and activate the network in a way that's functional and that attacks some of these challenges? And I'll just give one example and then I'll cede the mic. But I think, one of the things that I've said a couple of times, and I know other people have had this issue as well, is that this is a very expensive conference to attend, especially if you're not local. So, and one of the things I appreciate about this kind of conference when it's not in my hometown is that I get to know a new community and get to know some of the issues and the publications that are here. So one idea might be to kind of mash those two together and say, I'm having a little trouble affording the hotel and the conference and everything. So why don't we match me with somebody in the city who can host me, some local journalist. And perhaps if we know a year in advance where the conference is going to be, then you can retrofit that relationship, or you could start that relationship a year early and say, that I'm going to partner with, one of the writers at the Pittsburgh paper, and we're going to have a series of conversations over the course of the year, and that will culminate in a home hosting thing, or me being a guest, or me being able to bring a guest to that is sponsored by the local organization. So I'm just trying to, these are some ideas. I've always thought, Alan knows, I've always thought that we could better activate the freelance network for sure. I am the only one in those freelance areas on the website going, hi, and so it's always tumbleweeds in a ghost town. So I would love to see that not happen in the future. Thank you. Sorry.
That's great. I think we all want to activate the freelance network.
So I'm going to tee this up to you, Ellen, because Joellen, I don't think that your "Are you ready" was intended to be rhetorical. I think it is something that if we all agree that this resonates with the organization, we need leaders to step up and actually put our nose to the grindstone and get shit done. Otherwise, we're going to be here in another location a year from now and having the same dialogue over and over again. I don't believe, for those who were in the executive committee meeting last night, Jim, our soon-to-be outgoing treasurer, presented the financials of the organization. I haven't had a chance to review them yet, but as the incoming treasurer, I don't believe they are to be as bad as Jim painted them. I could be wrong, but I think there is, call me an optimist. So my glass is half full. I think there's opportunity. And I think we really need to come out of today with leaders to step up, raise their hand and say exactly what you said there. You actually gave, I'm sorry, I don't know your name. What's your name? Representative Esther, thank you. Esther actually presented ideas. And that's what we need is we have the power to do it. We have the ability to do it. There's no red tape. That's what I love about our organization. Shameless plug is we don't have to go climb up the corporate ladder to get shit done. We decide to do it, we evaluate risk factors, and we get stuff done. So I think that's our challenge right now, and that, Madam President, as I hand the mic to you, is our opportunity, and that should be our takeaway today.
Well, this is what I would like to have happen, if this is agreeable. We're not going to come up with a finite decision right now. It's just, let this percolate. But I would like all of you, we will send out a very detailed questionnaire after this survey. I mean, very different than what we've done before, just targeted on strategic planning, looking ahead, with many of the ideas that, were discussed today, as well as some other things, as well as giving you the opportunity to add to that. What I'm asking is, I know I get these things, I'm like, ugh, I gotta do this too. So I'm just asking, it probably will take 15, 20 minutes for you to do if you're gonna do it well. But the more feedback and input we get from you, the more we can plow ahead so that we actually make some inroads. This is my last year of presidency. I would like to leave AJPA in a better, healthier place than how I found it 2 years ago. I need your help to do that. I basically strong-armed Jo Ellen to come here because I knew she would do a really good job and keep everybody calm in explaining some of these options. So I don't want to lose the momentum. So I am asking all of you to take this seriously. We have another day left. Let's talk about it amongst ourselves. Come up with some ideas. What resonates the most with you? A part-time executive director, a full-time one, joining another organization, looking toward, I don't know, being rescued under the arm of JTA. I don't know. I'm just throwing things out.
You'll put somebody from 70 Faces Out Loud to AJPA.
Don't limit yourself. Just think what makes the most sense, and let's get something done.
I have an idea for an exercise we could do right now, if we have like 10 minutes or so. Okay, let's do something. Jim, would you mind being a scribe? Would you be able to pull up a Google Doc and just scribe for us? Is that something you can do? And I know you have a question, Rabbi. I'm gonna let while Jim's pulling it up. You want to say something?
We want people to invest in us. The more we invest in other people, the more other people will invest in us. 6 months ago or so, I received a call from an outreach organization in Denver asking me if I would mentor a young journalist. I said yes. I'm meeting once a month with a young fellow, maybe 24, 25. He's a business reporter, very sharp. We have a wonderful time together. I'm doing this in my name. I could be doing it in the name of the American Jewish Press Association. And I'm wondering whether each one of us has 1 hour a month to mentor somebody in the name of the American Jewish Press Association. We can make a lot of friends, and things build up a piece at a time. We're not going to transform this organization overnight with a grandiose multi-platform plan, but we can do it a piece at a time. And if we could make another 30, 40 friends by mentoring young journalists, 1 hour a month, it could be a nice start.
Thank you, Rabbi, and you started us off. So Jim is transcribing. I would like people to offer ideas right now for things that we could do immediately and things that and areas that you think that we should push long term. So, yes. Sure.
Yeah, so just my contribution in a very different one, because I'm obviously not a journalist. I'm coming as an organization leader. What makes this appealing to me is the opportunity to, I think someone said, in this age of sending media releases blindly, that's what I want to do. I want to try and help my organization get profile. This type of body, the Jewish Press, is very relevant to organizations like me. I don't know if you're trying to get more organizations like Evo and others in the Jewish world to support AJPA, but once I get to know people more and know the outlets more, I know how to pitch. And for me, the connections are golden, when you know someone. So I just want to come to a thing like this so I can meet the various outlets and so on. So the more powerful it is, the more I'm drawn to come.
Great. So other immediate ideas for how we can, things we could do now and things we could do in 6 months and things we could do in a year.
I think two things I'm thinking about. One is, you've been very provocative with your idea about journalists who are not, journalists who are Jewish but not in the Jewish space. But I would just say, like, if you think of concentric circles, there's a whole big concentric circle that some people reference. It's just like all the people who are within a Jewish world that we're not getting, whether they're publishers, freelancers, podcasters, Substack, all the organizations. That would be one. And two, that what I'll tie into that, I'm putting this out there, but not as like the person who's going to do it. But I think we should really think about doing, and I missed if there's already been chosen for next year. I really think we should think about doing next year's conference in New York, because I think if we have that mindset, by far our best ability to open up vast numbers of people in different categories, whether they're marketing directors of organizations or Orthodox press or journalists, like we mentioned before, 70 Faces of Media, like there's so many, and journalists who are Jewish who are not in Jewish media, like if we're serious about it, like exponentially, we're gonna be able to attract more people. But that's not a bomb. That's not a bomb.
I think that's an offer to host. That's an offer to host.
That's for
But I don't know, there's this New York Jewish Week I hear about that's in New York. It also ties to Esther's idea of having hosts, host people coming, because New York is expensive, but also a desirable place. Other immediate ideas? I'm gonna get. That's fine.
This is a tough one to say, but we,
Hey guys, New Jersey, I know it's exciting.
at Mid-Atlantic Media, we belong to another niche press organization called the Parenting Media Association. We have an executive director that heads up the whole thing. Where I really think that because of the yearly contract that we're on with KCA, we should first ask KCA if they can give us more than what they're giving us now. I agree that the financials and the event planning is great, but there's something more that can be given, because we see it at the Parenting Media Association where the executive directors sell, they get really involved, they do advocacy work representing the organization, and because we're on 1 year right now, we need to ask KCA if they can step up their game and lead us better. And if they don't have the capability of doing it, we might want to put this out and start inviting other companies that represent other organizations that can step up the game and help lead us. Because as Karen said, we all have full-time jobs, and it's very difficult for us to volunteer too much time for this. I'm a sponsorship committee head, and I devote a lot of time to it, but there's only so much time you can devote to it. So you need leaders. You need a real leader to lead the organization to do some of the things that we want to do.
Thanks, Nicole. I come from the PR world, so I might be opening a Pandora's box here. I know there's a few PR people here and a couple of organizations, but what about opening things up? There would be a great reference stream to get in front of PR people who represent people who are not necessarily in the Jewish world, but they have Jewish clients, and it could be an opportunity. FaceTime is invaluable, phone calls are invaluable. I never got better stories than when I jumped on the phone with people. So I don't know how we would do this exactly, but I think having like a PR track or something while we're here and giving people an opportunity to have a mixer to sponsor us could be a really good opportunity for them and for us. I know PR people are sometimes looked at as the enemy, but really if you get a good person, then sorry, no offense. But I've been where you are, and it's really valuable to get in front of people. Thank you.
Yeah, what some conferences do is they have sponsors who pay a lot to come and then get like 15-minute one-on-ones. That's the thing that keeps you.
On August 1st, everybody in this room should call one person, either a freelancer, a photographer, a podcaster, even a local smaller Jewish organization, and have them become a member. Freelancers is not very expensive. I guarantee you, if everybody in this room just directly calls one person they know to join, there'd be 40, 50 new members right off the bat.
Anyone, I strung out Larry Brook last week, who, you know, he has kids in college and this and that, and the guilt alone made him jump back in, and he's gonna be involved, he's gonna be at the conference next year. So it's the phone call, just have everybody in this room, one person.
Phone calls work.
Thanks, Joanna. I just wanted to go back to something that Marty just put out there. And as I say this, I've got Bob Cohn kind of whispering in my ear. There was a National Jewish Public Relations organization that was a nonprofit, and they kind of came limping to AJPA. I think it was in the early 90s. And we actually are also the legal entity that still exists theoretically, the Jewish Public Relations Organization. If we chose to go in that direction, we are that organization and we could reactivate it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
In order to attract some of the younger and varying different kinds of media and influencers that are out there, I would suggest dropping the press and changing it to the word media, American Jewish Media Association.
Love it. Fast hand raise. We're not gonna take a photo, so you can change your mind later, but how many people like the idea of changing to American Jewish Media Association?
I'd say journalism or news.
Or American Jewish, yeah, okay.
Well, if we kept
Media.
journalism, well,
Media is more
Media opens up.
I like this.
Those laptop cases you got yesterday are gonna be a collection.
You like media, Rabbi?
Okay, we have another right here.
Rabbi, you like media?
Also a PR perspective, so less, somewhat selfish and kind of the enemy, but I would love to see a more robust directory where I can, make me your friend, not your enemy. I want to pitch you great stories that you're going to be excited to publish. Help me do that. Make it easy for me to figure out who to talk to. Do you want me to email you? Do you want me to never email you? Want me to call you? Want me to, help me help you? And then at the same time, I'm also producing a magazine. I need writers. I'd love to have a way to find our freelance members that would be the best fit for my writing needs as well. So just more robust.
We might have to actually advertise our directory and we might have to actually spend some money on that.
Also, without volunteering, I also want to strongly second the notion of looking into New York as a conference site. We have a lot of people here from the New York area. Maybe we can get together.
Like a 5-family sort of.
We can get together and talk. It's not just, we know it's expensive, Manhattan is impossible.
We could do the hotel across the river.
Well, there's also-
We could do, we don't have to all be in the Manhattan hotel.
You could
Right.
name it Center for Jewish History.
The point is, we should talk about it, because that's really would be the defining line to break out of this kind of growth.
Yeah, I've been in New York for a lot of conferences, and you actually can, it definitely is not expensive, it's not that expensive if you're not in Manhattan. I have my favorite hotel off the 7th in Queens. And so who here is based in New York? Okay, so there are also a lot of doors.
But can I just say, the bigger number is the largest by far number of people who are not here are in New York.
Right.
I mean, that's it.
And we have
All of us here are very happy to come and see the rest of it.
Guys,
We'll fly anywhere to see the rest of it.
we have
NEVO is based at the Center for Jewish History, which are 5 other Jewish organizations co-located there. I mean, it's the ideal space, and I'm sure I can get you guys a discount. It's an ideal conference space. It's not.
What?
No, you just can't sleep. Bring an air mattress, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
I guess I can go on here. Let me just say that I'm a member of the American Theater Critics Association, and we also recently underwent a name change to more or less apply ourselves to all those out there who are not members associating with the quote-unquote press. So we're now the American Theater Critics / Journalists Association. I think that whether we use media journalists, it certainly is something that shows that we are moving forward into the 21st century, and we really need to get more out there. I think one of the other things that will engage the younger public, if you will, is more of our putting things up on some of the Instagram, TikTok feeds, et cetera. And WhatsApp is a wonderful opportunity, but you know, the thing is that most people who are a little bit older like Facebook, but the younger people don't necessarily like it at all. And when I try to tag several people who are even my contemporaries or maybe a little bit younger, they're not on Facebook anymore. So, you know, we need to be able to apply to Blue Sky and some of these other media that are alternative to X, et cetera.
I definitely think that one idea of, not super hard work would be to start putting things, get a channel for AJPA or whatever the name is. I think that's a good idea. All right, I am gonna wrap up because we have a whole other conference to do. Thank you, we're gonna continue this conversation.
Yeah, we'll probably continue it during the next session, which is our membership meeting, correct? Yeah, because we moved it to today. So, is there anything to give out for that, or?
If we're going to pull up the agenda.
Okay.
Just computer, yeah, let me on it.
Okay. And what we'll do is send out a recap of this session with the survey, and if there's anything that you haven't said or more that you want to add, by all means, then please feel free to do so. Also, you can always reach out to me, either by email or by a phone call. I'm happy to talk to anybody about this, because I really would like us to make some headway on this. Okay. So this will be a quick meeting, and then we'll move on to the next session.
Yeah, he still isn't coming on yet, so.
Desiree's watching.
Okay. So, okay, well, is it okay?
Yeah, I've been monitoring.
Does it look okay to you? Okay. I don't think anybody knows.
Yeah, all right. Why doesn't everybody take 5 minutes just to stretch their legs and everything?
Definitely. Jordan, this is going to end up with you, but I was going to circulate.
What's been the response?
Right.
True. She said that she.
But I want you.
Yeah, I know. That wasn't fair.
Oh, but yeah, there's so much room. 100%. I'm voting for New York. I mean, I'm connected
You didn't reply to me either.
Did you go out gambling? I actually worked for a couple hours and got a whole lot of work. So I'm able to enjoy it. I still have work for the days. I was kind of okay with it, because I just don't know something. As in, casinos, How was your dinner? Did they bring you food?
Oh, no.
I'm good. I feel a lot more relaxed because I got a lot of work done, but I'm still stressed. I'm relieved because one of my coworkers is stuck in Israel. She just messaged everyone on our Slack saying she's going to be. I mean, she was the little girls are like, she was there to see her parents. She couldn't go. Yeah, it was her and friends, and they had to take 3 hours from the north where she lives to the port to boat to go to Cyprus. That was like 3 days ago. And she was freaking out on the train. There's an attack. So I have been like freaking out. She made it to Cyprus and then she took a flight to London. I know, I mean, I'll see her when I get to the office and see her. I like her. And I love her. She's just amazing. So yeah, I feel better now. I'm relaxed. How about you? Did you get it late? You were partying before. I might have to skip a session with your work if I get this stuff in. It is what it is. How long is your, oh, you're driving back tomorrow?
You have a podcast?
Yeah,
I have a video podcast. We do a podcast. Yeah, I have this podcast for AJPA, video, like webinars.
And my place only has actually
Although, audio.
if I have a 5 hour drive, we hired a guy. By the time I get to the airport, it's 4 or 5 hours. So it would be a lot. I think it would be. We drove from Nashville to see. We actually stopped at Michigan.
So, is it just him talking to you? Again, put it on video. He's shy of video. He could also. Well, he also interviews people over in Israel. Okay. So what's he use, Zoom or does he use StreamYard or what? It's all audio. So he's probably Audacity or something like that, right? He's got a little music and stuff. Yeah. I mean, you can really make it as layered as you want. I've seen you do stuff where they have original music with a band, etc. that they do. I mean, that's quite exciting. It's fun. The production standards for me are a little bit lower. I try to fly in as best I can under the radar. Well, we're ready to go.
So, on the business side, I actually have a, just.
Oh, okay.
Robert again. Oh, there's Robert. Okay. All right, Robert, we can see that you're listening in. Thank you for joining the meeting. We'll get you.
Can I get everybody to take their seats so we can get this very short membership meeting done out of the way? Started. Can I get everybody to take a seat, please?
Yo!
Can everybody take a seat? Thank you. Thank you, Alan. Scary, but does a job.
This you still do too.
Yeah. Oh, is that a scout thing?
Scout sign.
All right, maybe somebody could, kind of gently nudge the hallway people back in.
Karen. Karen. See, it works.
Yep. Yep. All right. I know that there's others, but hopefully they'll join. Okay, I'm calling you to order. I don't know, do we have a quorum?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Do I have a motion to approve the June 4th, 2024 minute meetings? Alan?
Motion?
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. All right, I don't have much to say because I'm saying it all through this conference. My big focus has been in the last year and going forward, the strategic plan, and I'm not gonna pussyfoot around with it, frankly. I really think we need to move forward. From what I'm hearing anecdotally, and again, I'd like this in some kind of writing or feedback from you all, is to push forward with the idea of looking at our vision, having something really solid we can take to funders, and also finding a part-time executive director. So, we need to find the money to do that. So first steps, getting a vision statement together, and I'm going to be in touch along with the vice presidents, the executive board. I'm going to be calling on you all to help with this, because I can't do it alone. And yes, we all have jobs and so on, but this is important. I really want to see AJPA or A, whatever we're going to call it, healthy for years to come. So that's really my main report. All right, treasurer's report. Jim, do you want to give us the good news?
I exceeded my authority and I bought a ticket to the Irish lottery. And no, everybody's out in the hallway. All right, I will just summarize briefly. For those of you who don't know but understand what I'm about to say, our accounting system is and has been forever on a cash basis, not an accrual basis. And that means as we go through the year, because of the timing of when we receive revenue, when members pay, whether they pay in January, December, when the sponsors pay before this meeting or after the meeting, when we get invoices for expenses, it just means that the timing of revenues and expenses is really hard to track as we go through the year, both against this year's budget as well as compared to last year. So we don't have excellent visibility as we go through as to how we're doing. However, when we did prepare our budget at the beginning of the year, we projected another year of an operating deficit, and it looks like we're on track for meeting the budget of having that operating deficit, which is as good a news as you can have. At least we're not on track for being worse than it. We may be a little better, a little worse, but not significantly off. And so that's why we have the strategic plan discussion, because we just can't keep doing this year after year. So that's kind of the high level of where we are. And our reserve, which is invested in the market has wild swings. Month to month it goes up, it goes down. But in the long run, you hope that will grow, but we can't keep on dipping into that forever. So this is, I hope, this meeting is the beginning of a broader, longer term discussion of really growing the organization and putting its finances on a more firm, sustainable basis. The details are in there, but I don't think it's particularly useful in this forum to go through it line by line. So does anyone have any questions? Anyone want to make a donation? Okay. I'll turn it to you.
Okay, we're going to move on to committees. Kevin?
Okay. Okay, so as nominating chair, it was my pleasure and honor to work with our committee of myself, Ellen, Laura, no, yeah, and I think that was it. Yeah, Amara, and we present on behalf of the nominating committee. We present the following officers for re-election to a one-year term. For President, Ellen Futterman. For Vice President, Shana Goldberg. Second Vice President, Karen Smilk. Third Vice President, Lonnie Goldsmith. Secretary, Marnie, don't call me Bonnie Raitt. And yours truly as treasurer. I would like to ask Madam President for a motion to approve this slate.
Do I have a motion to approve this slate?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you.
Hey, our financial situation's already gotten better.
Yeah. You want the executive committee? And then you see in front of you for re-election to a one-year term, executive committee members. In the spirit of Joellen's report earlier this morning, we have not added any new executive committee members. We have trimmed it a little bit. So one of her slides was that we might be a little bit top heavy on the board. So we've tried to eliminate it, slim it down a little bit. So you see up here, I'm not gonna read all the names, but on behalf of the nominating committee, we present to the membership committee, the full membership, I should say, all of these members for re-election, a one-year term on the AJPA, AJMA, soon to be MA, executive committee, board of directors. Is there a motion, Madam President? Second.
Connie, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay?
Suckers. Just kidding.
Thank you.
Oh.
What do you think?
I'm okay.
You killed it.
I don't know who's next up, so I think Rocco, is Rocco next up?
Membership.
That's okay.
Don't worry about it. We fix it.
Karen, you want to do membership? Your last time? Your last time?
Your last time.
Every time I try to get out, they keep pulling me
Oh,
back.
you're back.
Membership, so we have, after 5 years, we have maintained a steady membership of between 115 and 118. COVID actually, we had a high during COVID, but we're headed to another high of about 120. Robert Kern will be taking over. Unfortunately, he's recovering from a little accident, but he is going to do a great job. He is going to actually call a lot of these press association publicists and Jewish museums. We feel we should have them on board. This is the new member list. You could take a look. Yeah, and didn't Jim say, or somebody said we exceeded the membership budget slightly this year. I will stay on the committee, but I'm also joining the strategic planning committee, so helping out.
Thanks, Karen.
And Robert's on the, listening in right now, so.
Rock hour next? Okay, Bob?
I guess it's rock hard time. I don't have exact numbers, but I know, I took this over, I think 5 years ago, because I was standing in the wrong line or something. Got a good committee together, and where we were at 750, give or take, entries, which was the maximum in like 37 years or 40 years. We've increased that almost 100 every year. We're close to 1,200 entries, roughly $35,000 that's coming in. And the sky's the limit on Rock Tower. Our committee has had great discussions. We meet like 3 to 4 times from like September to December. And they're 1-hour meetings, and we're so fine-tuned on what we're doing. We look at a category. If it's not successful after a couple of years, we change it. We bring it back. We do listen to people who want certain categories brought back, and we're willing to try them. We're creating new ones. We've created a podcast category finally after a year of discussing it. It's not what we want because we don't all know what podcast means. There's so many kinds, but we have one category. We will increase that in the future. We've also increased the number of categories from like 21, 22 years ago to around 36 to 39 or 40. We have wild card categories. We've looked at divisions over the years. So I'm explaining all this because if you have ideas, you're in other contests in your hometown also, they're all changing. I know one of the contests we did, Cleveland Press Club changed a couple years ago, and it's working. Dailies, weeklies, bi-weeklies, monthlies, magazines, internet, blog, trade journal, general journal, they're all in one category now. Their entries went right down, and they can't figure out why. Because who with a one-person staff can compete with a daily that still has a few dozen reporters? So if there's categories that you see missing tonight, let me know, let somebody on the committee know. We're always going to take a look at them. If you want to join our committee, we have a lot of great ideas. We have big hopes for Rock Hour, if I'm pronouncing that right, Kevin, in the future. Rock Hour, thank you. I'll just say the awards, because in print, we don't have to worry about pronunciation. It's only radio and TV. So we have big ideas for this based on somebody we brought in. I don't know if it'll ever happen, but it could be really beneficial to the organization down the road, but it's in the infancy. The other thing we want to do, and I'll close this up, is we need more sponsors. And we have to have a plan for that, and that's not the sponsorship committee plan, because that's the conference. We have, I think, one sponsorship now, and that was through Ellen. When I took over, I think we had 2 or 3. It could be we charge too much, they don't get enough value. That's why the strategic task committee, we need to have that overall plan. What are they getting by having their name on a Rock Hour table? I know Ami's mentioned over the years, can we sell a table at the Rock Hour to local people for $1,000? What do they get? I don't think we're close to going out to seeking sponsors until we know what we can give them across all of our publications. So any ideas you have that would help us, because That's additional money. I'd hate to see 35,000 go down, and I don't think it will. It hasn't gone down in the last few years. I mean, I'd like to see the 50,000. But how do we get the extra 15,000? Who can we bring in on game day that's gonna pay for that seat? And what are we gonna give them in return? I'll take any questions if you want. It's good, thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Okay, speaking of sponsorship.
Hello, I'm not gonna stand up, I don't wanna read off some things here, but first I wanna start off saying that my associate publisher, Jenny Van over here, is a second-year volunteer, but first-time attendee. If you haven't had a chance to meet Jenny, I encourage you to meet her, because she's a very smart media person over here, she has a lot to offer. So anyway, having said that, sponsorship. This year we had a goal of 43,000, and we came in at 42,007, 42,000. Very good short, so I'm just $50 short, but I think it was overall a pretty good year, a tough year, but a good year. I want to thank Celia, who is amazing. Are you calling Celia? She's amazing. She makes so many phone calls for us. So much. Ellen was at almost every single call, and Lonnie and Josh. Josh is back there. He scored a deal for us. Thank you, Josh. And Adam made a significant effort.
I'll be better next year.
Steve Rapinovitz over here was on almost every phone call and was a big contributor. I know Marnie, you were key. She scored a couple deals for us. Jim Busett scored a nice deal for us. And if I'm missing anybody, I'm sorry, but thank you all for being such great committee members for our sponsorship committee. I hope you come back, even though it was tough. I do want to name off the names of all of these sponsors because I couldn't list off this enough times during this conference. I appreciate them so much. 70 Faces Media, AFMBA, who many of you, I'm asking you to publish a piece that we're generating, an article that was part of this deal. It's a really nice piece about them. Be the Narrative, Blue Light Strategies, thank you, Steve. Jewish Federation of Greater Pittsburgh, JNF, JNS, Karen, Menachem, thank you very much. Appreciate you guys are always here. Michael Steinberg, Michael Morris, who came in on call yesterday with us. Mid-Atlantic Media, us. Nefesh to Nefesh. Also, we are counting on many of you publishers, editors to publish a piece that we're also generating as part of that. We also have Steinreich Communications, Simple Circ, The Optimist movie that, are we going to see the trailer today? I think or something like that. I think we are at the Rock Hours maybe. The Tree of Life, West End Strategies, the Yiddish Book Center, and ZOA. If I missed anybody, I'm sorry. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
I just want to call out one other sponsor, Nugo Bars, which were in your bags. They are based here, but they sell nationally. Everybody in Pittsburgh loves Nugo Bars. They are kosher. They come in two varieties, OUD and OU Parv. We put Parv in your bag so you don't have to worry about what else you eat. They are delicious, and buy them when you go home.
Webinar, Ellen?
First of all, I want to congratulate Craig and all the sponsors because this is an abbreviated gathering. We usually had 3 days and we sort of got down to 2 on this particular session. So to be able to generate interest for those sponsors to have a smaller session where they could have less of a footprint, I think is amazing.
Oh, it's easier. You don't have to spend as much time.
That might be true, but in New York is another story. As far as the webinar goes, the guy who heads up the webinar committee told me that he wants to quit, but he won't let me. So if anybody would help me, it would really be appreciated. Now, there is one possible new member, Karen, that I'm going to try to get on the committee, and that's the National Jewish Committee on Scouting. If they won't pay for it, I will, because they're going to be celebrating their 100th anniversary. I'm going to be pounding everybody in the head about that.
We'd like to send them to the Hawks Center.
Yeah, well, we'll figure that out. But in any event, as far as the webinars go, we had an amazing webinar with the recently released hostage, his mom, and several hostages who were taken, relatives that were represented, Eden Alexander, as I mentioned, but several others of blessed memory who were represented, talking on about what happened on around the anniversary of October the 7th. We have a number of other webinars that we tried to get up through the year. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. I talked to somebody about doing one coming up that looks like it's going to happen as well. And I want to mention Evo is renewing their membership, so we want to make sure that everybody knows we're going to have a webinar with them with some of the photos and graphics coming out of their new book that they have. So that'll be coming up. And, you know, we want to make this available to everybody. I know that the times sometimes are not easy. We try to make them on Thursdays. If you have a better alternative time, obviously not on Shabbat, but you know, whatever time we could do that would be more amenable, we archive these so that if you can't make it on the Thursday or sometimes on a Friday morning when we do, that you can access them later on at your own leisure. So we hope we're doing a good job, but if there's anything that you have as an idea, I want to know about it. I want to try to jump on it, but they do take time for us to promote. So if you want to have something done in August, you need to let us know at the beginning of July so we can promote it within our realm, okay? Other than that, I think that's pretty much it. Ethics?
We shadow figures.
Debbie?
It's been a quiet year. I don't think we have heard any complaints from anyone regarding ethics this year, which I think is a very good thing. It means no one has noticed a publication doing something that they shouldn't be doing with advertising, or, you know, nobody has been, has had someone not pay for advertising, where they feel they need to lodge a complaint. So this is good, keep it up. And pay your freelancers, please.
Wait, I have a question, actually.
Sure.
Sorry.
Would you like this?
Oh, I'm not quiet. If we're having trouble with an advertiser, we can bring, how does that work? Can you explain that? Because I didn't know that that was a thing.
A letter to help you, that you see that it's not just you, but there's an organization behind you. And sometimes that has helped. I mean, sometimes you're gonna need legal help beyond that, but sometimes just a simple letter that has gone out. I'm sure we have letters on file that have been done in the past that we can just personalize for you.
It's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody who heads one of our committees. That is a nice time, that's a big time commitment as well, so we appreciate that. Okay, new business, I mean, I think the new business is pretty much focused on moving forward with a revision, strategic plan, all of that. However, does anybody else have any kind of business or anything that they'd like to introduce or talk about? One of the things I'm wondering, I'm just throwing it out there, is should there be a limit on people who head committees? Should there be a limit on executive committee folks? Is that something that we should look at? Do people have thoughts about that? We're not going to decide anything this minute, but I would like to move forward thinking about that a little bit. Yeah.
I mean, I'm a huge advocate of term limits. I love term limits because it allows you to get fresh faces. It forces you to get fresh faces. And my reminder to people who don't like term limits is that just because you're termed out doesn't mean you can't come back.
Right.
So especially if the terms are short, like 2 years, you could say you have 3 terms at 2 years, you could cycle off for 2 years, and then you can be right back on there for another 6 years.
Look at Angela.
Okay, Alan?
I'm all for term limits. Anybody want to take over quick? Let me know. I did want to sort of gauge the interest. If everybody would kind of give me 1 minute. Bob has been doing an excellent job. I mean, I could not have believed the increase in numbers of submissions that we've had since he took over as chair of the Rock Hour Committee. And one of the reasons that when I was president, I gave him one of our President's Awards because I thought he did such a magnificent job. And he keeps doing better every year. So first off, if he's in the room, is he in the room?
Yes, he's right there.
Okay, I'm trying to see him.
Yeah.
Bob, thank you very much for all you've done. Well, I understand that, but you know, we say fearlessly, and we'd like to give you a little plug from time to time. So the main thing that I wanted to kind of gauge is that we are about to explore the possibility of opening up the Rock Hour Awards, possibly, again, not necessarily, but possibly, for people who are journalists who are Jewish, or who are journalists who are working on stories that have resonance within the Jewish community, who might be able to be eligible for a Rock Hour Award in media, but who might not necessarily be specifically members of AJPA right now because they're not associated with a Jewish media that are members, or they're not interested in being a freelancer without knowing the benefits. What is it good for me? We don't have any radio or TV broadcasting in the awards that are available right now for Rock Hours. So just by a show of hands, if we were to possibly open up to outsiders, like a Jewish journalist on a TV station in Philadelphia or Pittsburgh, or a Jewish journalist in New Jersey who might be working on a story that would be about the Jewish community, or maybe something about Israel that they kind of figured would be a possible contender for a Rock Hour, under the media qualifications categories that we would be able to open up to them. How many of you would be adverse, that is opposed, to having somebody like that in our organization? Yeah. This is the Simon Rock Hour Awards for excellence in Jewish journalism, but this would be a category that would be open to non-AJPA members. Well, no, it would be, if we had, the problem is in our organization, we do not have television or radio represented at this moment. We tried in the past, there was JBS, and there was maybe one other, and that was, and they came out of our organization. They were members at one time. They came out because they didn't get any awards. They were not finding any value in it. So this might bring JBS back in, and also might bring other broadcasters who are not necessarily with a Jewish broadcasting entity, but who are Jewish journalists or Jewish media, Jewish broadcasters.
Would they pay something to be part of our organization?
Well, they would be able to enter Rock Hours,
Well,
which
that's
would
not
essentially help
being,
us.
I mean,
But
we'd
it-
all pay a membership
Right,
for that.
I understand that. Here's the deal.
Yeah.
Okay, all right,
All right.
yeah, right. I just wanted to get a gauge on that.
Okay.
If anybody had,
I-
anybody averse?
Again, there'll be, are you
All right,
averse?
you're averse.
I'd have to think about it more.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, all right. I don't want to, get into something completely new. But I'm glad you brought it up.
Well, yeah.
And we'll put it, I mean, again, it will be part of our survey.
Well, the Rock Hours will talk about it, I'm sure.
Okay, yeah. Good and welfare. Anybody have some good news to share with this group? Any babies born, grandchildren? All right, that's exciting. Okay.
My granddaughter won 2 International Federation of Figure Skating, United States
Great.
Figure Skating
That's
Championships. First 2 she entered, she's 10.
Great, great. Yes. Oh, right, your son, right?
My youngest son graduated from FSU, and that's the last of them, so.
What do you have, 19 grandchildren now there, Bob?
So we had a great time born, my youngest son had his first in March.
Congratulations.
Do you remember
That's great.
the gender of the name?
Yes, yes.
What is this, how many is this now?
Yeah.
Number 8?
We have them from 5 to almost 14 now.
Okay. Esther?
I don't have children, but I have a podcast. And yes, and it placed second in the Southern California Journalism Awards. An episode I did with Rabbi Sharon Grouse about finding happiness in community, so.
Great.
Yes.
Yes.
We had a great granddaughter. No words yet.
That's wonderful. Okay. All right. Well, without further ado, do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Kevin, second.
Second.
Alan, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? One state to this meeting. All right. Our next session starts literally in, I think, 3 minutes. So if you need to shake your legs, go to the bathroom, great, but then the anti-Semitism session is here, the press forward session is in the next